even refusing that, imagine if we had come to a conclusion that he must be impeached with clear evidence, they were not going to accept it because the ANC uses its majority to muzzle democracy in South Africa.
Is there any thought about going back to start and trying to get a panel to look again with different parameters around evidence, prima facie versus substantial?
There is no reason to go back. The ANC will still abuse its majority. We need an independent court of law to come to a determination. What was the point in establishing a committee that is independent, that says to you there is some questions to be answered, and instead of going to look for the answers, we run away from looking for the answers. The job of Parliament is to look for answers from the authorities, from the executive. Today, we refuse to hold the executive accountable by rejecting Section 89. Independent panel. It was not a panel by some people. It was a panel constituted by independent individuals who said objectively there is something the president must answer to.
How soon are you like to go to court?
Well, we will make sure that within the next week we file papers and we challenge this irrational decision.
Thank you, Mr. President.
In terms of opposition parties' discussions, it's remarkable to see how united opposition parties across South Africa's politics have been on this issue. What does this mean going forward into the year before a national election?
Well, the unity of the opposition party was helped by the fact that we have consulted each other, consistently took each other into confidence, and we looked at what is in the best interest of our country. Because when you are in parliament, you cease necessarily to be a member of your party. You become a representative of the people. What is in the best interest of our people? And that's what the majority we displayed today as opposition parties. That despite our sharp ideological differences, we think that the interest of the people of South Africa must be made a priority. And that's why you saw the unity of the opposition today. And it was not just a unity. To move into the ANC ranks and win a high-profile, long-standing member of the ANC, it's a high achievement for what we represent. Because to get Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma to support us, Nkosazana is not a rascal. He's an outstanding, disciplined member of the ANC. For centuries and for decades, even before some of these people who are saying no to the reports were born, she has been with the ANC. So to get such a person of that caliber to say, yes, I agree with what the opposition says, that vote alone amounts to 100 more votes that we think we should have received from the ANC if they still respected their leaders.
I can't believe I'm saying this, but could you invite your colleague John Steenhuisen to come and join you on this one, and perhaps we can hear from both of you. Mr. Malema, just the last one quickly before we hear from you both as opposition leaders.
Just
the president right now, considering he's not even on site.
The president must be very ashamed of himself to have allowed his party to undermine the constitution of the Republic of South Africa. He's presiding over a party that has got no regard for the constitution of the Republic of South Africa. We were not saying the president is guilty today. We were saying let's give the president an opportunity to give an account to the people of South Africa. He said no himself, his party said no. So they've got no regard for the constitution of the Republic.
Julius Malema, EFF leader, thank you very much. We're going to move over to John Steenhuisen, head of the DA. John, some of your thoughts. Just as we come out of this remarkable sitting, quite a few moments of
Yeah, well, I think that the myth of an ANC renewal has been shattered. We're seeing the same ANC that defended Jacob Zuma coming out today, using their majority in Parliament to shield President Ramaphosa from any accountability. Today wasn't about impeachment, it was about getting the report there so we could establish what the facts were. And the ANC have once again used the tyranny of their majority to prevent that oversight and accountability. They've chucked out everything that Judge Raymond Zondo criticised Parliament for. All of the comments that were made around how things were going to be different now have shown that it's the same old ANC using the same old tactics to defend the same old corruption and maladministration.
John, just hearing from Malema about the consolidation amongst opposition parties, quite remarkable considering the range of political perspectives on a number of issues, economic so good. What does this mean in your eyes as DA leader moving into 2023, ahead of 2024?
Well, I think that there were two sides today. There was the right thing to do and there was the wrong thing to do. The right thing to do would be let the report go through, give the President an opportunity to appear before the committee, to state his case and to point out where he felt the report had gone wrong. The wrong side of the issue today was to slavishly defend the President from any form of accountability. And I think the ANC have made a terrible blunder today, and it's going to follow them all the way into 2024. Just as Nkandla was a rotting corpse on the back of Jacob Zuma, so too is Phala Phala going to be a rotting corpse on the back of President Ramaphosa going into the 2024, facing a far more united opposition.
Mr. Steenhuisen, what is it that are you going to do, given that the vote has gone this way? The EFF has basically said they are going to court. What's your next step now?
Well, obviously we'll have a look at what the options are. Parliament is required to act reasonably and rationally. There may be a case to be made that rejecting a report that said that you should go and do something is irrational and unreasonable. We will immediately reintroduce a request for an ad hoc committee, because whatever happens, we've got to get to the bottom of what happened at Phala Phala. We've got to, as Parliament, act it. And it was quite ironic to see that Mr. Lamola today completely contradicting what President Ramaphosa said at the Zondo Commission, when he was pointed out that Parliament was abrogating its responsibility because it was saying other agencies must do their work. The President said there was no reason why the two couldn't be doing their work together. And yet now when it affects him, suddenly we've got to wait for other agencies to finish before we proceed. And Parliament must take a back seat and sit on its hands and do nothing while those things are taking underway.
Well, thank you very much, Mrs. Steenhuisen. So here's the ANC to speak for itself. The chairperson of the ANC, Gwede Mantashe, is just here to really respond after the overwhelming vote that 214 people actually voted no, so which I guess is a victory for you. But what is interesting, Mr. Mantashe, is that you had 5 members, some of them very senior, who voted with the opposition.
No, it is not significant. In one vote of no confidence against Zuma, up to 37 members of the ANC voted with the opposition. 5, you can't describe that as significant. But we'll report that 5 members and cite their name to the ANC to put them in ANC processes. What is important here, we have a party political system and people are here on the party list. Nobody contests a constituency, and therefore, when we have discussions in the party and take decisions, they must be binding.
So what are you going to do to these members who have openly voted against the party directive?
We'll report to the ANC that 5 members voted against the party directive, and they will go to explain to the party processes what that means in real sense.
So are you not worried that this perhaps points to a bigger issue of divisions within the party if senior members would stand up in front of everyone to say, I go against the party?
No, division is the character of any party. Not the fact that people say they want secret vote for the ANC and think that everybody else is united. There's no such a thing. All parties have their own dynamics. The ANC has its own dynamics and we must deal with them. That's why when there are 5 people who dissent, we must report to the ANC and the ANC must follow that through.
But Minister, isn't it really a dare to have someone so high up in cabinet say, quote, as a disciplined member of the ANC, I vote yes? It is remarkable to have seen that in the Assembly and to say, well, it's normal divisions, but we're also going to report it. It seems to be walking left and talking right.
No, we're not walking left and talking right. We report to structures of the ANC. We don't take decision on individual members on our feet. It's not done. Everybody must be subjected to processes. That's why we are insisting that the President must be allowed to take that report through the process. That's why if he says, I'm taking it on review, we must give that review space so that the process doesn't nullify a complete comprehensive report. So we are here and with 5 members. There's nothing like high up in the cabinet. It's 5 MPs who voted with the opposition. We'll have to submit that report to the African National.
Are you disappointed though?
I'm not disappointed. I'm happy that 214 members of parliament voted that the report must be delayed. and only 148 said it must be pushed through. I'm happy about that outcome because it gives the president space to subject himself to the review and then come back and subject himself to the parliamentary process.
Thank you, Minister. We're going to throw forward now to Ati Mungara, who is on another side of the city.
Oh, well, the colleagues continue with the coverage. And of course, Lulu is waiting on the other side to also give the reaction of other members of parliament.
Thank you very much, Mzwandile Mbeje. Outside Parliament, a lot of reaction from opposition members, and as he said, Lulama is standing by. Lulama, Gwede Mantashe there was trying to really downplay the fact that 5 members of the ANC dissented today. They defied their party by voting yes, saying that President Cyril Ramaphosa should be subject to a broader impeachment inquiry. For people who missed the drama of that, let's just go through who they were. Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, Supra Mahumapelo, Mosebenzi Zwane, Mervyn Dirks, and then Thandi Mahambehlala. She initially said yes and then changed her mind. Just talk about that and how the speaker backed down.
Why? Because all the time we must have pretend as though.
What happened, Francis, is that when it was her time to cast the vote, as they were being called by their names, she said, I'm voting party line, I'm voting party line. And apparently what she said she's voting for the report. Then later on, she stood up and then she told the House that she has realized that her vote has been casted as a yes instead of no. She was voting no. But then after some deliberation around that and some opposition parties rejecting that her vote should be changed from a yes to a no, it was agreed that her vote would be recorded as a yes, and she, in fact, meaning that she is supporting the adoption of the Section 89 panel report. Well, Francis, if you're talking to people on the ground around that decision, they will say it's because it's possible that she realized that she's made a blunder to her political career by voting yes for the report, because on the NEC list her name is up there, so she wanted to give herself an opportunity to vote no, so that she does not end her political career like that. But for now, I am joined by IFP Francis. They have been waiting with me here, and they have been waiting. They were patient. I think let me speak to them before I get to the other parts of the conversation. I'm joined by Unkosi Mzamo Buthelezi. The IFP voted for the adoption of the report. All IFP MPs that were in the House, they voted yes. Nkosi Mzamo Buthelezi, you voted yes for the adoption of the report.
That is true. As the IFP, we voted yes to the adoption of the report because that is our work, that's our process. That was an opportunity that was going to help us as Parliament to make our President account. This was a process we're going to make sure that we go deeper into the issue of Phala Phala. Unfortunately, the majority vote didn't favor us, but we were happy to see the democracy in action here because parties were able to express their views on the matter without fear and favor. So it's unfortunate that we didn't win, but yeah, the process was okay. We're happy.
For the IFP, what would you like to see happening? What would be the way forward for the party?
The fact that now the process aborted today here, we hope that the other law enforcement agencies who are working on the matter will actually assist into going deeper and make sure that the president account and ask those questions that this opportunity didn't offer him to do so. So that's all that we expect from the IFP, that other law enforcement, because the matter was not only dealt by Parliament, also on the outside side, but we believe that after our president aborted, then a lot of people will make sure that they actually make the president to account. It was very unfortunate, in fact. But I hope that people of South Africa have seen the kind of leadership that they've got in the ANC, because you can't elect people into power, you can't elect people to account to you, and at the end of the day, they use their majority in the House to defeat the very same accountability processes that are put in place.
As the IFP, how would you like to see the president accounting on this matter?
As I say, that we expect the other law enforcement agencies now, that the SAPS, Hawks and everybody else outside Parliament, because in Parliament, as you have seen here, the failure to adopt the report means that the process can't take any further from here. So we hope to see that the other people outside us as Parliament will take the matter forth and he will be able to account. That's only the thing that we can hope for as the IFP.
Thank you very much for your time and for your patience there. I am joined now by Steve Swart from the ACDP, who's going to talk to us about the report. The ACDP voted in favor of the adoption of the Section 89 report.
Yes, indeed. We did a research into it, and we believe it was very important for the process to continue. When one considers that the whole of Parliament accepted the initial motion to refer it to the independent panel, this is part of a process. So it doesn't make sense to us for the majority party to have voted against the independent panel at this early stage of the game. We believe there is a case to answer by the President, and for that reason we then voted in support of this report, and it is regrettable that the majority party in fact then voted not to support the independent panel. We think this was the beginning of a process, and we would have liked to have seen the President answering the questions that South Africans are asking about. Where does that money come from? What was it doing there in Phala Phala? And that opportunity is now missed. Had the process continued to the establishment of the committee, the impeachment committee, the process today is not a finding of guilt. It is the next step in a process which we as Parliament agreed to. And it is regrettable that the independent panel's report, which is a parliamentary panel, was not accepted today, so that the next step could have been taken, as has been done with other issues, such as the Public Protector's report, which was accepted, and now there is a hearing at Parliament. We would have liked to have had the hearing at Parliament where the President could have come and explained himself and given answers that the nation is accepting.
Would you say then it was waste of resources that there was this report and now it's gone like that?
Definitely not a waste of resources. The panel came up. Those questions are still to be asked. Those questions are still there. And the findings of the panel, the prima facie findings of the panel, are still there. And everyone is going to ask, what is the outcome of that and what is now going to happen? Those questions still need to be answered. And we trust that the law enforcement agencies, the Hawks, the Public Protector, SARS, will now fully investigate those issues and the questions which now arise. But it is regrettable, because this was an opportunity to hold the President accountable from Parliament's perspective, and we believe this is an opportunity that is missed for Parliament to exercise its oversight.
Thank you very much, Steve. That was ACDP MP Steve Swart. The ACDP voted for yes in favor of the report, but as we know that it was defeated because the majority of ANC MPs voted no, and the report therefore was not adopted. Francis?
Well, we continue with the reactions from different political parties. We spoke to them before the vote, and then now the vote is done. So we are speaking to them again. With me is Dr. Peter Groenewald, who will share his views after the yes vote that they were advocating for didn't succeed. Dr. Groenewald, so you made a case before that you were hoping the yes vote will pass. It didn't.
Well, of course, as I said this morning, it's actually no surprise, because we knew they're going to use the majority in Parliament to vote against this report. But there must be no misunderstanding. The ANC did a dishonor towards Parliament and the democracy and the Constitution today. We want to give the President a fair chance to come and explain to Parliament. And I think this is also part of the strategy of the President going to the Constitutional Court. I predict that he's now going to withdraw his files at the Constitutional Court, because they wanted to wait to see what happens here. because if they withdraw now, it's the end of this whole process.
Basically, what does that put you as opposition parties who, your view, did not win the day?
Well, we didn't win the day, but that is democracy. There are many cases in Parliament, even on legislation, where all the opposition parties vote against certain legislation amendments, and then the ANC just push it through. That happens. But in this matter, it's a bit different, because this is about accountability towards Parliament. And I refer again to what the Zondo Commission said. They said that the President didn't do enough to ensure that there are actions against corruption.
Okay, just a quick one. The EFF, for example, says they are going to court to deal with this matter. Will you be joining them? What's your view on that?
No, we will not join them in their specific application. We don't know what they're going to say there, but it's their right. They can go. I don't know on what grounds they are going to do that. Maybe it's on the grounds and the procedure within the House. I'm not so sure, because I first have to see what the application contains, and then I can make a decision.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Groenewald. Well, Dr. Groenewald there basically saying, well, they wanted something out of this, but they didn't, and it's democracy, they accept it. And of course saying, as much as the EFF, the opposition parties they had voted together with, is going to court, they just want to see what will happen. But of course, we continue with those reactions from a number of different political parties, as my colleague Lula Maja is standing by on the other side.
Thank you very much, Mzwai. I am joined now by ATM leader Vuyolwethu Zungula. Mr. Zungula is the person who initiated the process of Section 89 report that led to this vote today. He's going to tell us more about, first let me ask him, Mr. Zungula, how are you feeling after the report of the Section 89 panel was defeated today?
What the ANC has done today, the first thing it is that the ANC has voted that Mr. Ramaphosa is actually above the constitution, he's above the rule of law and must not be scrutinized. You'll remember, Lulam, a few months ago, there was an ad hoc committee that was proposed by Parliament so that to investigate all matters relating to Phala Phala. The ANC said no. We've got the Section 89, which is another process in which we were proposing to investigate the very same matters. The ANC again says no. We cannot be told to wait for Hawks or SARS or any of these other institutions, because the conduct of the president can only be investigated by Parliament. It is Parliament that elects a president. It is Parliament that has a responsibility of oversight and accountability over the president. Therefore, what the ANC has done today, it has elevated Mr. Ramaphosa to be above scrutiny. Even if he can kill someone tomorrow, trust members of the ANC to say he must not be investigated. That is what they've done today.
Your motion depended for it to survive, the report for it to be adopted dependent on the support of the ANC. Did you do enough groundwork canvassing for them to vote for yes for the report?
Look, we made sure that all 400 members of Parliament understand the importance and the reason why we are voting today. You'll recall that the ANC chairperson threatened members of Parliament. Even yesterday, Mr. Lonlomisa and Mr. Nyonso also received death threats, which meant that some of the members of Parliament were intimidated from doing what they're constitutionally required to do. That is why the secret ballot was very critical to make sure that members of Parliament can be able to vote with their conscience and vote to put the interests of the people first. It is an irrational decision that was taken by the Speaker to actually block our request for a secret ballot that would have protected members from intimidation, protected members from the death threats that are there. There is a case number. That case was also, the Speaker was made aware that there is an existing case, but the Speaker decided not to protect the lives of the members of Parliament by not granting the secret ballot.
ANC members were told to vote to toe the party line. Are you doing that to your own members as ATM, or ATM members were allowed to vote as they wish?
Look, we never gave any instruction that members of the ATM must vote one way or the other. What we said, here are the facts, and here's the possible transgressions, and here, this is the reasons why it is important for Parliament to work and hold the executive accountable. Look, what happens at a national level, influences every department in our country, meaning the municipalities will be weakened in terms of holding the mayors accountable. Similarly at the provincial legislatures, because the message that has been sent by Parliament today is that your president is above the law. The president can be accused of very serious crimes such as money laundering, tax evasion, and you, Parliament, a body that has been created by the institution, by the Constitution to hold him accountable, you can take a decision of not going to investigate the president. That is what happened today.
As the ATM, what's the way forward?
We are going to continue using the existing committees in Parliament to push for oversight on this particular matter. We are also going to court to make sure that the decision taken by the Speaker is declared unlawful. Even the voting is declared unlawful and it must be set aside. The decision taken by Parliament today not to investigate a person that has got a case to answer is also declared unlawful and is also set aside.
But the courts have earlier said, have ruled before, that it's the discretion of the Speaker to allow for a secret ballot, dictate to Parliament on how it can conduct its business. Don't you think that the court again will say the Speaker has a discretion to allow for a secret ballot or not?
The court stated that the decision to grant the secret ballot, the discretion lies with the Speaker. However, it does not lie on her personally. Akakwazi usebenzisa her own personal views on the matter. She needs to look at the circumstances that we've put forward to say, here are people given death threats by their own party, here are people given death threats by unknown people who are sending SMSs. Therefore, there are extenuating circumstances that warrant that the voting must be done by means of a secret ballot. That is what the court had ruled before. Now, that is why we believe that in light of the fact that we have put all of those facts in front of the Speaker, but the Speaker still declined to give us a secret ballot, we believe that that decision is irrational because we gave her all of the facts beforehand to make sure that she comes to a decision to protect the lives and the livelihoods of members of Parliament.
Let's leave it at that. Thank you very much for your time, Mr. Zungula. That was the ATM leader. This process of the Section 89 report, saying that they are not going to let the matter to rest. They are still going to go to court to try and nullify this process and nullify the voting process because they believe that it should have been secret because of some death threats that were given to other MPs. Let me throw to my colleague Mzwai.
Well, we continue with the reactions here. And of course, the one party that voted very differently from the majority of those who voted the Good Party. You'd remember that the 214 votes, mainly from the governing party, were saying no. And then the yes vote were 148 from the opposition. But there's one party that abstained. And with me is the Secretary General of the Good Party that voted in that fashion. Why did you abstain when everyone voted one way or the other?
Because the choices that were put before the National Assembly were really nonsensical. And given that binary choice of two wrongs, we had no choice but to abstain. You would have known that we tried to present an alternative resolution. The Speaker ruled it out of order. But what we were faced with was the choice to kill off a process, even on the basis that the President has taken the item or the report on review, but the review is not concluded yet, or to proceed with the process while there's a review pending. And what we were proposing to the National Assembly today was that the National Assembly adopt Section 89 process, but that the committee, the impeachment committee, does not commence its work until the President has concluded his review. And that was not accepted. And so with those two very nonsensical options before us, we abstained, and the National Assembly voted to kill off a process without the review being concluded.
Well, is it far-fetched to think the reason you abstained is because you have your leader is serving in President Cyril Ramaphosa's cabinet? So voting yes would have sent, in inverted commas, a vote of no confidence in the president, yet you are serving in there. So the thinking?
I think South Africans must really learn to understand that we have no coalition agreement with the ANC. There's no obligation for us to vote with them. We're an independent party, and that has always been the case. The fact that our leader serves in the cabinet is
at the pleasure of the president.
At the pleasure of the president is at a request of the president, made in 2019, shortly after the elections. But if you look at South Africa's history, every single cabinet since 1994 has had an opposition leader serve in it. So we were not obliged to vote with the ANC.
Yeah. I'm raising this because Patricia de Lille, the minister in President Ramaphosa's cabinet, is known for speaking out loud on issues of corruption. Obviously, the president hasn't been found guilty of any corruption. But given that there are these allegations, you probably would have thought someone like Patricia de Lille would have been the first to say, yes, in order for me to be not associated with this, I'm stepping out or I'm showing my hand. But you decided to abstain.
Well, Patricia de Lille is known to be a fighter against corruption, and she has a long history of that. But she's also known to be a constitutionalist and someone who follows the rule of law. And what we had before us, as I said, were two nonsensical processes or resolutions, if you consider the law. And that, on the one hand, as I said, if we killed off this process by voting no, even though the president's review has not been concluded, that's nonsensical. If we proceed with the Section 89 process and the president succeeds in his review, then all of that work would be unlawful and a waste. So we had two lawful decisions, opposing decisions that were nonsensical. So I think it is consistent with Patricia's constitutionalism, and there's no evidence of corruption. There is prima facie, the panel found a prima facie case that he may have breached the Constitution.
Something way back, she came to Parliament when she named those people who had prima facie evidence on the arms deal. That was prima facie evidence. And then she was brave to go on then and say it.
Yes.
Here is prima facie case, but she's abstaining.
Well, the prima facie case that was found by the panel is not necessarily sustainable by the evidence that was before them, and that's the test that the president is taking to the High Court, and it's also our own reading of the report. The finding is based on hearsay evidence, unsubstantiated or uncorroborated evidence, and the president has refuted some of that evidence. There were some holes in his response to the allegations, but I think that our party's position is consistent with Patricia's fight against corruption, and at this point, there's no evidence that the president has committed any corruption.
Should that happen, will she resign immediately from cabinet?
I think you have to ask Patricia herself.
You're the Secretary General of the party?
Well, as I said at the beginning, the fact that Patricia serves in the cabinet is a personal request from the president to her. There's no arrangement between Good and the ANC. But of course, if there's a finding of wrongdoing, our party will discuss that and discuss her continued position in the cabinet. But if you're talking about the cabinet, you have to also remember that there were members of the president's cabinet who voted yes tonight.
Of course I do. Yeah. Thank you very much. Well, there is Brett Heron, the Secretary General of the Good Party, the only party that abstained from voting. The majority, obviously, voting no, 214, and then you had the vote, which was 148, which voted yes. But this was the important part about this. If you look at it in the broader political context, you had 5 ANC members who voted with the opposition, and among those are very senior leaders of the ANC. Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma is one of them. And of course, we had Thandi Mahambehlala, who 2 weeks ago we did speak to after the NEC had adjourned because there were issues. She had expressed her unhappiness at the turn of events. Here today, when it was time for her to vote, she basically said, I'm taking the party line. But she needed to be specific, is it a yes or no? And then she said a yes, which was against the party line. So when the whole process was concluded, and then they were given the opportunity to correct whatever. And then she said, actually, I meant no, but the process had concluded. So it's very interesting. The other one being Msebenzi Zwane, the former minister in President Zuma's cabinet then, and of course, Superamo Homapilo, he had made it clear that that is what he was going to do. He definitely did that. The other person who voted yes was Mervyn Dirks. I mean, he's known for really being opposed to a current president. But the other notable development is that you had some of the prominent ANC members who were here. But when it came to time for vote, they were not inside the house. For example, Lindiwe Sisulu, she was here, but when it was time for her to vote, she was not here. Whatever that means, you'll be the judge.
And definitely, Mzwai, whatever that means, a lot of people are going to be judging this one. I was finding that conversation with Brett Heron very interesting, given the dynamics that unfold between the leader of the Good Party and the fact that she serves in cabinet. And of course, a lot of people raising questions about that. But you tried all you could to get us some answers on that front. And let's see then how the developments go during the course of the night. And we'll stay with the story when we come back. We continue with our analysis with Sesman in just a moment, just to take you through what happened in Parliament, what it means now in the context of what we are going to be seeing later this week when it comes to the ANC conference.